was a little kid, I made a deal on the playground. My buddy Eric really wanted my bottom half Lugia legend card. He wanted this card so badly that he was willing to trade his copy of Pokemon Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance just so he could have it. I used to think that trade was really bad for him, but now looking at these prices, he might have been ahead of his time. But ever since that day, I've been a fan of the Pokemon games and have played basically all of the major titles until Legends Arceus in 2022. It's been about 3 years since I've played a Pokemon game, but that itch came back, and instead of putting lotion on that, I decided to scratch it like a man. But this time around, I wanted to do a challenge. I'm not a kid anymore. Legally speaking, I am a man. And what better way to prove my manhood than by playing this children's game with hardcore Nuzlocke rules. If you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, that's kind of impressive, but here are the basics. Catch the first Pokemon of every route, you have to give them a nickname.
Darwin. What? But that spells Japuxfred.
And if they faint, they didn't actually faint, they're just dead, meaning that you cannot play with them anymore. As for the hardcore part of the phrase, the rules are as follows. No overleveling past the next gym leader, game is on set mode, and no items during the battle. Held items are perfectly fine, but if they get caught on fire, we legally cannot do anything until it's over. For the game, I wanted to go back to Gen 3 since that's where I started, but considering I've already played Sapphire and I played Omega Ruby, I wanted to play Pokemon Emerald for the first time. So join me and let's see how my first Pokemon Nuzlocke went. We start our journey by leaving a white van and becoming the new kid on the block. After committing trespassing, we head over to help the professor. But instead of beating that raccoon with our own bare hands, we get to choose our first Pokemon.
What the?
Oh, and I forgot to mention, since I'm a gambling addict, this will be randomized. We were given the very hard decision between Dunsparce, Ekans, and... I think we all know what the right call here is. After that raccoon caught the meanest headbutt of its life, we gave our adamant nature Salamence a very suitable nickname. Once that's done, we head over to May to do our first proper battle. And let's just say, she had some pretty bad RNG for her run, so she's gonna have to do a reset. And for the future, if a battle isn't that much of a challenge, I'm just gonna show this image. Since we proved to be more than capable enough on our own, we were given a Pokédex and some balls, which meant that our challenge could truly begin. Our first encounter was sadly not the Gengar that I saw earlier, but instead a Relicanth, which was intimidating for the simple reason that this thing has a very low catch rate. And since I only had 5 Pokeballs, yeah, we caught it. His name is Jeremy. We then walked 5 feet and came across a Pokemon that was just a little better than a Relicanth. The next 2 team members in our challenge were a Pinecone named Brock and a ball toy named John. After some switch training, we traveled over to Petalburg City and got into a trainer battle that was a lot closer than I would have liked it to have been. I mean, we almost lost 3 of our team members, one of which including our starter. Yeah, just thankfully we got out of that unscathed. Yeah, so this was a completely avoidable death because not even less than a couple of minutes ago, I picked some berries that could have cured John. And now that I think of it, that's gotta be a pretty terrifying way to go out, slowly dying from poison as you saw someone you once considered a friend pick up the antidote and not use it on you. This was a very tough blow to both my team and my confidence because I really thought this was going to be easy. I had a little objective in my mind to try and beat my first Nuzlocke without losing 5 Mons, and we lost one not even 20 minutes into this. But it's not the worst thing to happen in the world because they say that Emerald is a generous game when it comes to encounters, so we do have plenty of opportunities to replace John. And they was right because we went on to the next few routes and caught ourselves a Machop named Becky, a Teddiursa named Freddy, and a Noctowl named after the person on first base. That joke is making numbers in the 1930s. And don't worry, Zoomers, the MistahFeet channel is a place welcome for all because we also got a coughing that I named Gold Scar because it's gas. Fortnite. We also fought a bug catcher who had a Latios, but everything was fine because...
Wait a minute.
Oh yeah, after getting just about all of the encounters we could have gotten at this point, it was time for the first gym battle against Roxanne. Gold Scar was the lead going into this, but it was underleveled, so I immediately swapped over to Jeremy to spray it down with some water guns. Next up was a Pokemon that I will not say the name of, because I will not get clipped out of context with a phrase like that. Becky then came out to karate chop the mystery Pokemon, and Roxanne retaliated with a Numel. That's a great argument, Roxanne. However, go win button. With our first of the 8 gym badges acquired, we were stopped by May, who was now on her second attempt of this challenge. She tried to copy our strategy of using an Intimidate Pokemon as a starter, but this is just revealing her ignorance as a trainer. You see, it's not Intimidate that makes Salamence broken. It's everything about Salamence that makes him broken. Regardless, we didn't even use our win button here, since Noctowl was not afraid. So he pecked her last remaining Pokemon to death. It's back to the moving truck she goes, while for us, it's straight to Doofer Town. We caught a Sentret named Fodder, then shortly after, we encountered a Furret. Normally, this would have fallen under the Nuzlocke rule called Species Clause, meaning that I could have walked around here some more to get another Pokemon, but for some reason, I forgot that Sentret evolves into Furret, so I tried to catch it, but failed and killed it, meaning that I never really got my encounter for this area. Well, that sucks. But hey, at least we get another encounter in Dewford. Our new fishing rod allowed us to make up our past 2 mistakes with the Makuhita that I named Yokozuna, because I misspelled Yokozuna, and a Zigzagoon named Bandit. After traversing a cave filled with great mons that I actually could have gotten instead of a Furret, I then went over to Slateport to get 3 encounters, but I accidentally killed a Sudowoodo and an Nincada. But I did manage to not kill an Alakazam that we later named Miyagi.
Dude, I'm from Detroit.
Oh.
Now it was time for the second gym. Going into Brawley, I was pretty confident, and for good reason, because we had a Makuhita, Alakazam, and a win button. We were able to sweep this team, even though he almost got rid of my win button because of sleep and tackle spams from a Stantler. With our second badge acquired, we progressed onto Mauville City and encountered a Weeping Bell that I named after the emotions I was feeling at that moment. If you were to ask me what that meant now, I couldn't tell you. I recorded this like 3 years ago. Then we had May.
Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
Get ready to learn Little Root Town, buddy. After beating Wally's dog with our sumo wrestler, Yokozuna evolves and we battle for our 3rd gym badge. In a normal run of the Gen 3 games, Watson can be a pretty tough fight, but when he brings out a Psyduck, Torchic, Sandshrew, and a Quagsire, he really isn't. On the way to the government-mandated bad guy boss battle, we get some pretty, you can choose the adjective encounters. A Farfetch'd named Fake Out, a Tentacool that I named the last, I have no idea what this means, a Pichu that I accidentally killed, and an Entei that I thought was a new encounter, so I used all of my Pokeballs on it, but failed, even though this was the same route as the Tentacool encounter. To quote JFK, I do not read because I cannot. I do not read because I choose not to. Our next team member in a field full of Gengars, Blastoise, and Tricos was a male Ladybug that we fittingly named Melba. On the next route, we found a Latios who we also weren't able to catch, and there was also a Lugia on that route. But it's okay. It's okay. Because on the next encounter, we got a Poochyena. And before you say, MistahFeet, you're so funny and attractive, but that's not bad. Because Mightyena gets Intimidate, which is one of the best abilities in the game. That's not the point. This is a randomizer. I want to use Pokemon that aren't easily available in a normal Gen 3 playthrough. I say with my Tentacool and Hariyama. Since we're 12 years old, our government-mandated bad guy boss battle is waiting for us at the top of Mount Chimney. Maxie decided to use a Charmander, Weezing, and a Glalie, and believe it or not, I didn't even need to pull out my win button because of the last Miyagi and Jeremy. Before we made it to the next gym, we had the chance for another encounter, which was another Entei that was also not able to join the team. I'll let you take a guess as to what happened here. Did I kill it, or did I run out of 30 Great Balls? The answer is both. In the 4th gym, we did have a double battle in which I lost the last because it did not even come across my mind that the electric type Pokemon would use an electric type move on my water type. So all I can really say to the last is, my fault, gang. I got too happy using the speed up button. After that brief gut check, we begin our fight with Flannery. Yokozuna leads this fight by body checking the Cacnea, Miyagi then Psybeams the Crobat, Jeremy Rock Tombs the Walrein, and Jigglypuff goes against... After pulling off a victory like that, I was feeling pretty confident about this challenge. So much so that I decided I wasn't even going to train my Pokemon for the next gym, Norman. And man, was that a bad idea.
Ow, Daddy, ow! Daddy, that hurt! Ow, Daddy!
Norman's first Pokemon was a Ninjask, which was a little scary, but not the worst thing in the world. It's more like a Balloon Boy rather than a Nightmare Freddy, if you get what I'm saying. It's manageable. All we have to do is kill it early so it doesn't get too fast for our team. So we faked it out with Yokozuna and embered it with our win button. But Norman's next Pokemon was the problem. He had a Rayquaza. This was the Nightmare Freddy. This thing did spook me at first, but then I remembered fighting a Rayquaza earlier on the beach. There was only a 10 level difference between that one and this one, so I figured, my Salamence still has not learned any Dragon-type moves yet, and that Rayquaza only knew Twister as their Dragon-type move. So surely Rayquaza also wouldn't have learned another one, right?
Why do birds suddenly appear?
Okay. My first plan was to swap over to Jeremy and Rock Tomb it. Thankfully, we did get the speed drop from it, but Norman healed the legendary when we swapped Jeremy in. After the Rock Tomb, I sent in Hariyama to do a fake out just for some chip damage. Following the fake out, I decided to sack off Freddy and swap back into win button for the Intimidate so we could reduce its attack. Because at the time, I thought Dragon type was physical.
It wasn't.
We swapped out Win Button with Yokozuna so we could get another fake out, and thankfully Rayquaza went for Ancient Power instead of Dragon Claw for some reason. I'm guessing both moves would have killed our Salamence, so it was a very good thing that we swapped. I knew that I needed to use one of my heavy hitters to finish this thing off, and since the Rock Tomb slowed it down earlier, I knew for a fact that Alakazam would outspeed this thing, but if it got hit by anything, it would probably die. After thinking for a moment, I decided that the best course of action was to sack off Jeremy so I could get a clean switch onto Alakazam. Alakazam came in and killed it with 2 Psybeams after tanking 1 Dragon Claw. Thank you, Jeremy, for all that you've done in this run. You should not have been a part of this challenge, but you did more than what was needed. You showed all the Relicants out there that you Relican. Norman's next Pokemon was an Azurill that died as soon as it showed up. Then we got to his ace in the hole, Lantern. My team was hurt and I did not have any type advantages over this thing. I swapped in Yokozuna to take a hit and fake out the Lantern for some chip damage, and upon realizing that he would faint from another attack, I swapped in Noctowl just so it could die, because I didn't really care about Noctowl. I mean, I didn't even know who they were. With my clean switch, I knew that Alakazam and Salamence could not kill it with one move, so I went back to Hariyama to use fake out for just some more damage. Then I threw the battle. I swapped into Alakazam so I could spam recover, but I eventually got paralyzed, which meant that we were now slower than the Lantern. This put my Alakazam in a horrible spot, and I knew that there was only one way for me to win this battle. There was no point in going for recover anymore, because no matter how much I healed, I was still going to be slower than the Lantern, and with paralysis, there was a chance we couldn't even get the move out. So I decided to go for a Psybeam, in hopes that it would confuse the Lantern with its 10% chance, which it did, but at a cost, because Miyagi would go down next turn. Now, all that were left was a Hariyama and a Salamence, who were both 1 hit away from dying. I threw in Hariyama because I knew that death was inevitable, and that it was not going to outspeed a Lantern, so I just used Fake Out. Lantern then attacked through confusion and killed my Hariyama. It was now a 1-on-1. A confused half HP Lantern versus a Salamence with 12 health. I used a headbutt and the Lantern hit itself. The tides were beginning to turn. All we needed was one more headbutt, but then tragedy struck. Norman healed the Lantern with his last hyper potion. It seemed like it was over. My first Nuzlocke was a failure. But do you remember what my Salamance's name was? We headbutt the Lantern on the heel, then we did it again, and the Lantern hit itself in confusion. It was like Miyagi was looking up at us from below. He did a lot of bad shit. And with that boost of confidence, our Win Button lived up to his name and rammed his head against the Lantern for the win. We had beaten our father, but at what cost? We lost 5 other Pokemon, and he still wasn't coming back home. At the beginning, I had expected to not even lose 5 of my team members, and here we are after 1 battle, and all that's left is a dying Salamence. The challenge was still possible, but now we were going to have to rebuild and lean forward in our chairs to take this more seriously. Our new members that were standing alongside our Salamence were Machop, Ghastly, Poochyena, Weeping Bell, and Zigzagoon, but they were all very underleveled, so it was time for some switch training and new encounters, which went horribly because I lost my Weeping Bell and Poochyena to our next encounter, Swag Money the Magnemite, who we can't use because it's over the level cap. After we got our magnet, we went into New Mauville to find our next team member, who was a Mewtwo that we couldn't catch. As we kept farming and training, I lost my Haunter to a Thunderbolting Pikachu in the water. Why did that do so much? Is this fucking Ash's Pikachu? How did that one-shot me? Following that death, I checked the PC and found unlimited rare candies, meaning I don't have to switch train anymore. What a coincidence. I didn't know Nintendo still patched these older games. Wow. No wonder they cost so much still after all these years.
Wow. What a deal!
On the way to the 4th gym badge, we encountered a Ludicolo that I named after how I was feeling at that moment. If you were to ask me why I named it this, I actually could tell you this time. I always wanted to use a Ludicolo when I played Sapphire as a kid, but I never knew how to get them because I didn't have internet back then to look it up. At the Weather Institute, our new team member easily surfed onto the Aqua Ladies Nidoran and Sandslash, and we were rewarded with a cast form who is actually a Machoke that we can't use because we already have Becky. Yay! As we make our way into the next city, we get interrupted by our rival yet again. Reset number 4!
This is
fucking stupid.
Before the next gym, we caught Bailey the Bayleaf and Dia the Arcanine, who didn't even have Intimidate, so that dog was about as helpful as tits on a fly. But now it's time to get our 6th gym badge. After taking a prolonged period of time that I will not disclose to get through these puzzles, we began our fight with Winona. Becky karate chopped a cactus to its death, which led to Winona bringing in her Wynot. I had 2 options here. I could either get a free swap into Win Button, who could probably one-shot it, or I could just go for strength with Becky and hope that I'm able to one-shot it, because why not? I made a pun here, but I'm still pretty upset that Becky died. The rest of her team wasn't a problem. Win Button and me right now swept Winona's Rhyhorn and Squirtle, which resulted in our 6th gym badge. On our way up to Mount Pyre, Drax the Minoon, Berserk the Talo, who thankfully did have guts, and Dusty the Cascoon joined our box of Pokemon that probably will not get used. Once we made it inside the mountain, our encounter was a Registeel, who did a crit explosion onto Swag Money the Magnemite. Come on out, Berserk, it's your time to shine. After making it past a random Deoxys encounter, we traveled over to the Magma hideout and caught Swampert the Wishcash. We also reached level 38 on our Salamence, meaning it could finally learn its first Dragon-type move, which proved to be very helpful against Maxie Skarmory, Flygon, but not against that Lapras. That is way too scary for our Win Button. So come on out, Ludicolo, and use Absorb. Well, that didn't do much. Yeah, Ludicolo doesn't get any good moves by level up, so we were reliant on our randomized TMs. He couldn't even get Fake Out. The only good move he got was Spore. So come on out, Gold Scar, and oh, never mind, he's dead. So come on out, Ludicolo, and use Spore, then use Absorb. This strategy worked until I mistimed the Lapras's Perish Song, because I still thought I had another turn left. I didn't. 23-year-old man can't count to 3. And you'll also be surprised at what else he can't do. So come on out, Bandit, and finish this fight. To replace those 2 unfortunate losses, we brought in Dia and Swampert. Inside of Team Aqua's hideout, we caught a male Ralts who replaced Bandit, and we sailed over to Moss Steep where we caught a Totodile. I was happy about this at first, but when he became a Feraligatr here, I did not enjoy it, because every time I used him, I had to stare at Gator ass cheeks. Why? Our 7th gym battle was not like most of our gym matches. It was more similar to Norman's. We led with Swampert and Win Button, while Tate and Liza led with Wobbuffet and Grovyle. This must have been an absolute nightmare for our Swampert, because he had to stare right at a grass type that knows Leaf Blade, all while looking at a blue punching bag that will not let him leave. Yes, he did have a quick death, but sadly, I cannot say that it was painless. Our Salamence avenged him with a fly onto the Grovyle, and to replace Swampert, we sent in Bailey, in which the twins responded with a Zapdos. Our strategy here was to just not attack Wobbuffet. I mean, like, how can a punching bag hit you if you don't hit it? I know the dangers of that thing. I did not want to find out, so I chose to not fuck around. We used Poison Powder on it, then we have our 2 team members attack whichever Pokemon isn't Wobbuffet. This strategy worked for the Zapdos, but the Hypno was a bigger problem for us because he poison gassed our Bailey and confused our Salamence, who is apparently a big, dumb, stupid idiot because he kept hitting himself. Our Salamence was now under half, and Meganium was poisoned. We took down the Hypno, in which the gym leaders responded by healing the Wobbuffet. Now it was do or die time. For Salamence, we had 2 moves to choose from, Bite or Strength. I chose to go for Bite since I knew none of our moves were going to kill, but Bite could at least potentially get the flinch. As for Meganium, I did not have any faith in her to kill a below half health Wobbuffet, so I just chose Synthesis. Wobbuffet has 2 damaging moves, Counter and Mirror Coat. Counter works for physical attacks, and Mirror Coat works for special ones. Contrary to what the name implies, Bite was actually a special attack in this game, and I didn't want to risk doing a Body Slam because that would enable Wobbuffet to use Counter and potentially kill one of these 2. By just choosing Bite, we had a 50% chance of not getting hit and a 30% chance to flinch the Wobbuffet. The life of Win Button was going to be decided by a 50-50. And if this was just 1 game later, we would have lost our Salamence. But it's not. This is Gen 3, bitch! Now that we have our 7th gym badge, after a very dangerous fight, we immediately almost lost our Win Button to an Aeron. Yeah. On the way to the 8th gym badge, it was honestly just a lot of encounter maxing for me, with the only real interesting find being a Celebi. Inside the seafloor cavern, I've conquered the puzzle that stopped me from completing the original Sapphire as a kid. Then we entered the Cave of Origin, where, coincidentally enough, we encountered a Kyogre that I instantly used a Master Ball on. We got this Master Ball from the other Team Aqua hideout. It was hiding right next to Fuda. With the Kyogre on our team now, the rest of this video, I'll be honest, is pretty anticlimactic. So the fight between these 2 legendary, colossal Pokemon was stopped by a Rayquaza, who in this game was an Aipom. So now I'm just picturing these 2 looking at a funny little monkey, giggling, and just going back home. Our 8th gym badge was a Kyogre sweep, where we caught a Sceptile in Victory Road, and we made it to the Elite Four. So, Let me paint this picture for you. The Elite Four and the Champion are usually the hardest parts of a Pokemon game. It is designed to be the final test, filled with the most difficult Pokemon and ones that are leveled fairly high for that point in the game. In this run, the hardest Pokemon that all of the Elite Four, including the Champion, had was a Meganium. And this is our team. This was an Elite Four that consisted of Caterpies and Kakuna. I wish this ending was more dramatic. But no, when I got to this point, it just kinda ended because of Kyogre's ability, which boosts water moves, and we had two Calm Minds to set up with. We were now the champion, and our team was now in the Hall of Fame. Bass the Kyogre, Fuda the Gardevoir, Huge the Sceptile, Rocky the Hitmonchan, Windbutton the Salamence, and
The Bite of 87?
we had a lot of deaths in this journey, more than I was expecting, but we still pulled through and completed our first Nuzlocke. Randomized Nuzlocke. If you would be interested in seeing me do a real Nuzlocke, let me know by commenting, liking the video, and subscribing, because that actually does let me know if you're interested in seeing more of these things. I had fun making this video, and I hope you all enjoyed watching it too. I don't know what else to put here for the outro, honestly, so, bye-bye.
Tell me why